Hello my dear students, welcome to my channel Take It Seriously. As this video is going to be the very first video of the year, so how I can start without wishing you all a very happy new year. I wish a lot of prosperity, love and health to you all. And what else do we need? Okay, so on this note, let's start today's class. Today's class is going to be about arithmetic progression part 2, right? So we have already done part 1, and in part 1 we have discussed all the formulas, all sort of formulas like an, sn that will be used in this chapter. So this is the exercise 1 of your book, exercise 1 of NCRT. This exercise particularly is a cakewalk. It's really easy. It's really easy. Okay, so we are not going to discuss this exercise in this video. What we are going to discuss rather is this question, only this question number 1. This looks simple, and it is actually simple, but it involves a little bit of calculation to reach to the conclusion, whether these statements are an AP or not. So I thought of making this video particularly this question separately. Okay, so let's start. Okay, so here is question number 1 in front of you, question number 1 of exercise 1. So you have this question in front of you, and what this question statement says: in which of the following situations does the list of numbers involved make an arithmetic progression, and why? So this question has 4 subparts, and in these subparts a different situation is given, and you need to find out whether these situations form an AP or not. Okay, so what is the basic condition to check whether a sequence of numbers is an AP or not? What do you say? Definitely, if the difference between two consecutive terms is constant, right? If the difference of two consecutive terms is constant, is same, then we'll say that it forms an AP. And if it is not same, then we'll say it is not an AP, right? So let's check out all these parts one by one, and let's start with part 1 of this question. So this here is the first part. So this statement says the taxi fare after each kilometer, when the fare is rupees 15 for the first kilometer and rupees 8 for each kilometer, additional kilometer. Okay, so in this situation taxi fare is given. Okay, if you're traveling by a taxi, then for the first kilometer you need to pay rupees 15 as a fare, and if you for additional kilometer, for each additional kilometer that you travel, you need to pay rupees 8 more. Okay, so let's visualize this. So here is this line. It shows distance. So this is first kilometer, then one more kilometer, and then 1 kilometer, right? So let's say if you travel, and for the first kilometer the fare is rupees 15, for the next kilometer fare is rupees 8, for the next kilometer it is rupees 8, and 8 so on. Okay, so after 1 kilometer the taxi fare is rupees 8 for each additional kilometer that you travel. Okay, so let's say if you travel a distance of, so we need to find out whether the taxi fare after each kilometer forms an AP or not. Let's find it out. Let's say you traveled a distance of 1 kilometer. So how much fare you need to pay? Only 15 rupees, because you have just traveled 1 kilometer, right? So for the 1 kilometer the taxi fare is rupees 15. And if you travel a distance of 2 kilometers, right? If you travel 2 kilometers, you need to pay 15 plus 8. So how much? 23. If you travel a distance of 3 kilometers, you need to pay rupees 8 more. It means 23 plus 8, so which is 31. And this way it keeps on going. So for next 4 kilometer, we need to pay 8 more, 39, and then plus 8 again. And this way it keeps on going. Now you need to check whether this sequence of numbers that is formed here, this sequence of numbers forms an AP or not. So it obviously forms an AP, because here each successive term is obtained by adding 8 to the previous term, right? So here the difference between two consecutive terms is rupees 8. So it definitely forms an AP, arithmetic progression, right? Okay, so here is question number second part of this question in front of you. So this question says the amount of air present in a cylinder when a vacuum pump removes 1/4 of the air remaining in the cylinder at a time. Okay, so there is a cylinder given to you, and every time the cylinder removes 1/4 of the air which is remaining in the cylinder. Okay, so 1/4 of the air is being removed by the vacuum pump. So you need to find out like the amount of air left in the cylinder, whether that forms an AP or not. So let's say that the cylinder initially has has a air of let's say 1 unit. So initially the amount of air that is present in the cylinder be 1 unit. Okay, so we are just assuming it, right? So it has a amount of air that is present in the cylinder is 1 unit. Okay, now if you remove 1/4 of the air from the cylinder, so now if you remove 1/4 of the air, then how much is left? 1 minus 1/4. You are removing 1/4, you are removing, so what is left now? 1 minus 1 upon 4, and 1 minus 1 upon 4 is what? 3 upon 4. Okay, so now 3 upon 4 amount of air is present in the cylinder. Now if you remove 1/4 of this air also, now again you use a vacuum pump and you remove air out of it. Okay, so how much will be left? So 3 upon 4 is already there, and out of this 3 upon 4 you are removing 1 upon 4 of it. So 1 upon 4 of 3 upon 4, you see here. So 1 upon 4 of whatever is left in the cylinder, so that's why it is 3 upon 4 minus 1 upon 4 of 3 upon 4. So we'll solve this equation and we'll get that the amount of air that is left in the cylinder is this much. You solve it, okay, you know the calculations, and we'll just find out that the amount of air that is left in the cylinder now is 9 upon 16. Okay, so 9 upon 16 air is left. Now we just saw that initially the cylinder had 1 unit of air in it, then we removed 1/4, then the amount of air left is 3 upon 4. Now again we removed 1/4, then the amount of air present in the cylinder is 9 upon 16. So we just need to check whether this forms an AP or not. Okay, so air present in the cylinder, so initially it had 1 unit air, then it had 3 upon 4, then it had 9 upon 16. Now let's check whether it forms an AP or not. So what we need to do, we need to just check the difference between two consecutive terms. So first we will do A2 minus A1 and then A3 minus A2. So if the difference between these two situations is constant, then we'll say that it forms an AP. Okay, so 3 upon 4 minus 1 upon 1. So because 3 upon 4 is the second term and first term is 1, so we'll just find out the difference of these two terms, and the difference of these two terms is minus 1 upon 4. Okay, so minus 1 upon 4 is the difference of A2 minus A1. Now what we need to find out? 9 upon 16. We'll just find out the third term minus second term. 9 upon 16 minus 3 upon 4, and the difference of these two terms is, we'll just solve it, and it will be 9 minus 12 upon 16, and 9 minus 12 upon 16 is minus 3 upon 16. So as you can clearly see that A2 minus A1 was minus 1 upon 4 and A3 minus A2 is minus 3 upon 16. Here you can see the difference between these two consecutive terms is not same. One is minus 1 upon 4 and the second one is minus 3 upon 16. So we can clearly see that this is not same. It means that this situation does not form an AP, right? It does not form an AP. So here is part 3 of question number 1. So this statement, the situation is, the cost of digging a well after every meter of digging, when it costs rupees 150 for the first meter and rises by 50 for each subsequent meter. So you remember the taxi fare situation. So this is just similar to it. So if you for 1 meter of digging, you're just digging a well, and if you dig for 1 meter, then initially for 1 meter the cost is rupees 150, and for each subsequent meter that you dig, the price is rupees 50 each. Okay, so what does it mean? Like, let's say this is meter and this is how you're digging it. So for 1 meter that you dig, cost is rupees 150, and then for each subsequent meter that you dig, price is rupees 50 for each subsequent meter. So for the next meter it is 50, then 1 meter 50, the next 1 meter rupees 50, and so on. So this is how it goes on. So we need to find out the price, the cost of digging after each meter, whether that forms an AP or not, whether it forms an AP or not. Okay, so let's find it out. So the cost of digging a well after every meter of digging. So for the first, let's say if you dig 1 meter, then it would be rupees 150. It's just same as the taxi fare question. So I'm not explaining much. So for the first kilometer, this is rupees 50, 150. If you dig for 2 meters, let's say, then it would be 150 plus 50, 200. Then if you dig next 1 meter, then the cost of digging would be 250. Then 1 meter more, it will become 300. One more meter, the cost of digging would be 350, and it keeps on going, right? So we just need to check whether it forms an AP or not, and it clearly we can say that it forms an AP because here the difference of two consecutive terms is constant, and that is 50 in this case, right? So it surely forms an AP. Okay, let's move to the part 4 now. Okay, so here is question number 4. Okay, and I'll just read out the question statement for you. So the amount of money in the account every year when 10,000 is deposited at compound interest of 8% per annum. Okay, so what is the situation? That you deposited 10,000 in the bank account at compound interest. Okay, and the rate of interest is 8% per annum. So you deposited 10,000 in the bank account, and it is, you know, like undergoing. So every year some compound interest will add to the account. Okay, so definitely, so the amount after every year in the bank account will increase. Okay, so we need to find out that the amount that is present in the bank account after every year, okay, will that form an AP or not? So let's check this thing out. So the amount of money in the account for the first year, you deposited 10,000 rupees in the bank, right? So you deposited 10,000 in the bank. So for the first year, right? For the first year, the amount of money that will be in the account will be 10,000 undoubtedly, right? Okay. So after 1 year, like after the gap of 1 year, means like amount of money in the account for the second year. We need to find out the amount for the second year, right? For the second year, so the general formula that we use to find out the amount is this. Okay, A is equal to P1 plus R upon 100 to the power T. So what is R here? R is the rate of interest. And in this case, the rate of interest is 8%. Okay, and T is the time period, right? So it's for 1 year, like per annum. The compound interest is getting computed yearly basis per annum. Okay, so we are just computing the amount in the bank account after 1 year, means for the second year, right? So for the second year, so we need to find this thing out for the second year. So we'll just put the values in this formula, this simple formula, and we'll just solve it to find out the amount. Okay, so here for the first year, so we deposited 10,000, so it is 10,000, the principal is 10,000, and a rate of interest is 8%, so that's why this is 8 here. And to the power 1, because we are just finding out the rate of interest after 1 year, like for the second year. So how much time period is there? 1 year, right? So that's why the power is 1. Then we'll just solve it, and we'll just find it out that, so we'll just solve the bracket first, and it will come out to 108 upon 100. You need to solve it, so you can see that the zeros are getting cancelled out. Then you are just left with 100 into 108, and once you multiply these two terms, you will be left with this much. Okay, so 10,800. So the amount of money that is present in the bank account after second year, right, it would be 10,800. Now we need to find out for the next year, like for the third year. So again, from second to the third year, so time period is going to be 1. Okay, for the third year. And now principal, so now for the second year, this is the amount. Now what amount we have in the account? We have 10,800. So this amount will be the principal for the third year, because for the third year the principal would be 10,800. Now we'll just put these values in the formula again, and we'll just compute the amount of money that is in the bank account for the third year, right? So 10,000, as I said, 10,800 would be the principal for the third year. 8% is the rate of interest in 1, because second to third year, how much time period is there? 1 year. So that's why this one part. We'll just solve it. Solve the bracket first. Bracket means what I mean by brackets. So we'll just solve this bracket, 1 plus 8 upon 100. Solve it first, and you'll get this 108 upon 100. And now again, you can just cancel out the zeros, and once you cancel out the zeros, you're left with 108 into 108, right? And 108 into 108 is how much? So it is 11,664, right? So the amount of money that is present in the account for the third year would be 11,664, right? Now
we know that now let's see, we have the amount for the first year 10,000, for the second year 10,800, and for the third year 11,664. We need to find out whether these amounts form an AP or not. So let's check it out. Just write down these three terms at a go. Okay, first year, second year, this is the amount, and for the third year, so this is the amounts, right? We need to find out whether they are forming an AP or not. So what you will do, you'll just find out the common difference of two consecutive terms, right? Okay, so what we will do to find that thing out, A2 minus A1. Okay, so in this case, A2 is 10,800 and A1 is 10,000, right? So this is A2 minus A1, and then we'll find out A3 minus A2. Okay, so now if this A2 minus A1 is equal to A3 minus A2, if the difference of these two consecutive terms is same, then we'll say they are forming an AP, and let's find it out whether A2 minus A1 is. A2 minus A1 is this much. How much? 10,800 minus 10,000 is definitely going to be 800, right? Now we'll find out A3 minus A2. So A3 is this. How much? This is 11,664. So this is our A3. So A3 and then A2 is this thing, 10,800 is equal to so 11,664 minus 10,800 is going to be how much? 864. Now you can clearly see here that the common difference of A2 minus the difference of A2 minus A1 is 800 and A3 minus A2 is 864. So what do you say? We can clearly see that the difference of two consecutive terms here is not same, right? So what does it mean? It means that this particular situation is not forming an AP. That's all for today's class. We'll see you in the next video. Till then, you take care and bye-bye. And yes, before leaving, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel.